It is 6:32 on the 6th of April, 2017. I'm calling the meeting of the North Whidbey Park and Recreation District Board to order. Present are Commissioner Shingleton, Commissioner Hoffmeyer, Commissioner Fort, and myself, Commissioner Hawley. Commissioner Frosch is missing. Today is going to be, has the potential to be very contentious. So let me just remind the other commissioners, we're all good people. We're on this board because we want to serve our community. And even if you don't agree with somebody, it doesn't mean they're stupid or evil. It just means they think differently than you do. So try and be civil, everybody, and try and be brief. So first order of business on the agenda is levy coverage discussion. So what I need first is a motion so that we can discuss it. Do you have a motion, Commissioner Fort? It's your topic.
Oh, my topic, okay.
Sorry, maybe you didn't recognize it by the thing, but we're talking about the M&O.
Before you want me to talk about this, okay, I didn't know what you're...
We have to have a motion before we can talk about it. And just giving it a second doesn't mean that anything's approved, it just means we can talk about it.
That I explain my reasoning for programs and M&O budget spending. Or I move, well, yeah, whatever. Move or motion?
You move.
Okay, I move that I explain my programs and maintenance operation levy.
That's it. You would explain it, but it may be your motion, you would want to word it in such a way, I move that the board approves what I have laid out as the...
How can they approve when they don't...
Or send it to special meeting, consider?
What?
That we consider it possibly?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get to explain mine like the director has explained his.
No, and you will explain it, but it's like what you would like is for the board to adopt it, correct? How you've determined.
Not completely. That's why I originally said, everybody should put down their own thoughts and we should discuss it. I'm not locked into everything that's on here because this was my idea.
Okay.
There may be some different opinions and you may be able to talk me into those.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
perhaps we can just start kind of going through the process. I understand where you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
I understand that, but maybe what we need to just go through the discussion process.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought we couldn't discuss anything without a motion that we are discussing.
Technically, no, but it's not that we don't make exceptions
I'm not
to that.
moving.
So-
That's true.
I'm not-
Okay. All right then. Go ahead and explain your process.
Okay, so let's see. So I'm sure everybody's had a chance to see these. I put into the maintenance and operation levy those expenses that I felt are needed to keep the pool and parks maintained in a closed state, but ready for the doors to open to programs and users. This won't be long. I put into the program user fees any extra costs to open the pool, front desk CSS, lifeguards, various percentages of executive director and 3 other sub-directors for their increased work of being open, and increased custodian cleaning costs. Also, all program instructor and equipment costs. Each program should pay the same percentage of the calculated lane time hours to cover the CSS and lifeguards during hours used. Pay prorated increase of the extra executive director and 3 sub-directors extra work requirements when pool is open. Also, 75% of the custodial fee for increased cleaning costs when the pool is open. These are my estimates. Could be different. All programs should pay 100% of their non-lane overhead, all instructor costs and equipment costs. No other district grade school athletic program has a full-time taxpayer-funded coach. The swim coach should be fully paid for by NWAC master swim teams, not from the M&O levy, at a cost of $61,000 this year, 10% of the M&O levy. And I'm done.
Okay, so you've explained it, and we have your things. Is there a motion from the floor on this, or do we want to discuss it further? I'm not sure where we are right now.
Well, I mean, if we want to just, pick a basis and go through the list as to what, have discussion amongst ourselves about what we think belongs in it and what doesn't.
Okay,
I have a motion.
yes, Commissioner Hoffmeyer.
I motion that we accept the executive director's recommendations of what he feels the M&O should and shouldn't pay for.
Is there a second? No second, fails. Accept executive directors, what was it, how did you word that? You accept the executive director's recommendations.
Of what the M&O should and shouldn't pay for.
Recommendations.
I thought we might be able to get a second for discussion at least.
Should pay for no second. Defeated.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
do you want to just go through and, here would be my suggestion, sorry, I mean, I can make a motion, but I'm not sure that it's necessary.
Okay.
I would just say if we wanted to start with what we believe, or with the list of maintenance and operations levy and discuss what we think belongs in and out of it. I mean, maybe that's
Okay.
kind of like we do with when we go through the P&L and the budget review, right? We go through it, we go through line by line and determine whether, if anyone has questions or concerns about anything. Is that fair?
okay.
Would you want to make copies of this for the rest of the board, and, or does everybody understand what I said?
I handed that out.
No, this.
No, you didn't hand that
This
out.
is my explanation for what goes in the M&O and what goes in.
I was just going off of your email, but yes, I can make copies for you.
And you're well aware of this because we've discussed this before, so we know what each other stands.
Okay, so are we starting with programs, user fees should cover this part?
I would start with maintenance and operations personally,
Oh.
because I think that's, I mean, it's, so he has 2 pages.
I know.
Okay, sorry.
Or I'm looking for, oh, there it is, okay.
And the
Okay.
reason being is because that's really where the
The crux is,
kind of, I mean, it's like, what do we think should be covered by those taxpayer funds? And I mean, and we can still go through everything, and I personally, either that or we need to use a P&L. I mean, it would be one or the other.
no,
Okay.
Since there's no motion on the floor at this time, and it sounds like we're just going to discuss it to try to get somewhere at least, would it be appropriate to listen to Kaz's program P&L comparisons first?
No, that's next on the agenda, because it can very easily be changed by this discussion.
There you go.
Okay, so maintenance and operation levy should only fund, so do you want to go over it line by line, and have everyone chime in if they
I
have a
don't know
difference?
do I need to read it? I mean, everybody.
Yes, because we're
audience.
recording, and so for
Okay.
the
All right.
audience, or for the,
So, maintenance and operation levy should fund utilities, gas, electricity, water, sewage, garbage, porta potty, rental, etc. 100% of the maintenance director, salary expenses, payroll, taxes, and benefits.
Does that, okay, so on that one, does that also include the maintenance staff,
Which maintenance staff?
the assistant maintenance person?
Well, yeah, and I left, and not everything's in here, and you're right, I left that out there, because the assistant guy is that the one that just does the drains and refills the,
And covers if Matt's gone, yes. It's one of
so the part, I would say the part that when Matt's gone should be covered in here. But when they're draining and refilling the let's see, I don't know, see, so
Okay,
Yeah, I'd
so
say-
we would say plus
I
and
would say,
staff.
I'd say no, yeah.
Wait, you'd say no.
I would consider that a maintenance expense.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
consider it too.
I just wanted to be sure we were accounting for it.
Yeah,
No,
I
it's-
haven't been able to, I'm sure I haven't covered everything and I've missed some stuff. Repair and maintenance expenses, pool chemicals, operating and custodial supplies, 25% of the custodian's salary expenses, payroll taxes.
Where did that 25%? Sorry, I'm not,
Why did I come up with 25%?
Yeah.
I figured how much it would cost. You'd still have to have somebody in here cleaning even when the place is completely closed and nobody used it. It was a guesstimate,
I put that at 50.
okay?
Just,
Well, I mean, yeah.
and again, I was trying to think, it's like, well,
Yeah.
how often, if we didn't have people coming in and using the
Yeah.
showers and stuff, how many times would someone have to come in and clean it? And it's, I'm easily swayed from that
Yeah.
50% too, it was just a,
Professional services, plumbers, electricians, boiler, heating, etc. Capital outlays, building and equipment, certified pool operator class, reserve account buildup, special maintenance projects, dog park, water, porta potty rental, cutting grass, trash pickup, all at the park.
and does that, okay, so in reality, you mean Clover Valley Park as a whole?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not,
Yes,
I'm just trying to make sure.
That's true, I should have said that. Okay, Clover Valley. Good point. Okay, and 75% of the executive director, salary, expense, payroll, and taxes, benefits. I figured he'd still have to be here if we were just waiting for it to open sometime. 50%,
So wait, oh,
and
sorry.
again, that was
No, and-
a judgment guess on my part.
Okay, is
Versus
there a
percent.
reason why you believe it wouldn't be covered 100%?
Well, because I think when it's opened, I think his duties are going to be more. And those 25% include, making sure the lifeguards are here and the front desk person's here and so on and so forth. We can discuss it.
I'm just.
I don't know. I just figured
I
there's
understand.
some increased expense for when he's open. He's going to have more duties when he's open than when he's closed.
I understand, and I'm just trying to take all this in. I'm not
Yeah, yeah.
necessarily saying I agree with everything
Oh,
that you're
yeah,
saying.
no,
I'm
no,
just
no.
trying to get where you're coming
That's
from.
just where I was coming from.
Yep.
Okay, 50% of director finance, same reason. She still has to pay all the bills and so on and so forth when the building's closed, but there are more bills, expenses when the building is open and running all the programs. You're right, I don't have, the director could probably break these down better than I could, but this is mine.
you did fine.
20, telephone, computer upkeep, internet, liability insurance, operating and office supplies, professional services, attorney, accountant, consultations, etc., state auditor, election costs, non-program licenses and fees, non-program postage, Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce, financial fees, and first aid supplies. I put all under maintenance and operation levy. I'm sure I've forgotten some stuff. Okay. Can I go to programs and budget now?
Do you want to talk about maintenance, this first?
Okay, you bet.
How about, we'll try and do it this way. So each commissioner will have a chance to say, this is what I agree or disagree, and why. And we'll each take a turn, and then you each get a second time to comment in case somebody says something that you want to rebut or whatever. So Commissioner Hoffmeyer.
Yeah, by Commissioner's for its own admission, he probably forgot some things. And I think no more than any of us are here. I think that's going to be the case with any of us. If Commissioner Fort were the executive director, though I might think this whole idea here is unnecessarily and overly limiting, I would support him in it. But none of us are the executive director. There are a lot of board members that are in this room that were on the board that hired the director at the time. And all 5 of the board members at the time admitted to not being money people per se necessarily. And that they were intelligent enough to realize that the district was in great financial peril, and then they needed a money guy. So again, I think following what Bruce from CIAW said last week, that we need to know our role, and that we need to be looking at staff recommendations a lot more. I think when it comes to M&O levy monies versus revenue monies, I feel legally there's not much of a difference. And I feel that this whole idea is just ridiculously overly limiting. And there are going to be things we forget, a lot of things we forget. And so every regular meeting gets extended by an hour maybe of, oh, we need to add this, this, and this. And it's just, it's not our role. I'm not questioning anybody's intentions or character. I know we're all well intentioned, but I don't think it's the role of a volunteer board. That's all I have right this second, unless something else comes out.
Okay. The custodian salary expenses, maybe make that more than the 25%, although I'm not sure about that one. I would say the executive director, his salary is not going to change because we have a contract. And so I would say 100% of the executive director's salary should be funded by the M&O levy. Liability insurance, I don't think all of it should be funded by the M&O levy. Mr. Executive Director, how much did our insurance go up last year?
From Indurus to
Yeah.
CIAW, I believe it was on the order of 30 to 35,000.
35,000 at least is directly attributable to NWAC, and I think it should be an NWAC expense. That all came
there's no
to,
way.
yes, absolutely. That all came down to all the lawsuits we had, which are all go back to NWAC, every single one of them. And we would have still endure us if we didn't have NWAC. I'm just saying. I just think, okay, excuse me.
I'm sorry I found something funny. I just laughed. It was something was going through my head.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to leave next time you burst out. Thank you.
I'm
We're
sure
trying to
you
do
will,
business.
honestly.
I absolutely will. That's just my opinion. Everyone's not going to agree with me, I'm sure, but I think part of the liability insurance does need to be an NWAC expense. That's all I have.
I would like to point of
No,
order.
sorry,
Chair.
no,
Point of
sorry.
order.
No point of order. Oh, wait, okay, what's the point of order?
I'd like to point of order you to yourself that I really feel like that could create more legal issues, and I would appreciate it if that comment was taken back
Which comment?
about NWAC and the whole Andy King thing.
I'm not, no, I didn't, did I say
Of course,
the
everybody-
AK name? I did not.
Everybody.
And I am
knows
not
what
taking
I'm
it back. I am not taking it back. I would adjure you, every lawsuit that we've had is related, that unless there's some that I'm not aware of,
There's several.
every lawsuit that I know of
There's-
goes back to NWAC.
It was the board's failure. It was.
I'm just saying. I'm absolutely, children need to be protected. Absolutely. I'm not saying that that was a bad thing. I'm just saying there were, anyway. So no, I'm not taking it back. And I don't see how I can get sued for something that I think is the truth.
I agree that you can't, but I think the district can.
Yeah. Commissioner Singleton.
Okay, so I guess initially I would say I'm not sure that this process is going to work, but I am committed to trying. And just a quick response, I actually don't think in terms of us determining what should go on the maintenance or operations levy that we're overstepping. We're the stewards of public money. And so we are determining, and in this case, before we ask, before we reach out our hands to ask them for their money, we are determining what we think it should be spent on, and I believe that is 100% appropriate. Again, we are all sharing our opinions, and that is mine. The things I'm not sure about, so when it comes to the staff time, I think that's where I probably waver more so than you do. Commissioner Fort, I actually see things, and it's interesting because I didn't see this in anyone's I personally see things like lifeguards as overhead, because we can't open the doors without them. That's my feeling. I think that the executive director, I hadn't really thought about it from the same perspective as you, but I think that should be 100% funded. And I would look at certain other roles. I think it's an interesting point because I hadn't quite understood the why Commissioner Fort thinks about some of them the way that he does. And so it's helpful for me to understand that. But I do think that certain internally focused positions, I think they could or should be 100% funded by M&O. And I'm open to understanding why there's a better way. But so for me, that would be, sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I keep track here. Director of Finance, Director of Client Services, and I probably, Director of Aquatics, I'm not 100% sure. I think you could do it either way.
Which line, are you on the still in maintenance operations? You jumped over to programs?
No, I haven't. I'm just trying to make sure, because some of the things aren't on there.
Okay.
It's a difficult, like, it's
Because I
kind of.
haven't explained it all. I haven't done it.
No, I understand that, and if I was jumping ahead, I'm sorry. I think it's a function of the fact that all of our brains work a little bit differently, and so for me, it's trying to make sure that it's inclusive, because there have been other times when there have been discussions and it's like we didn't say anything, and it's like because I didn't realize it was missing. So I'm trying to be as inclusive as possible. So sorry if I jumped ahead. I didn't mean to, but.
Okay, so
Are
did you have a second
part now?
comment? Go ahead.
Like I said, I don't think this is our role, but if something like this were to ever work, I think the wording would have to be included, and
The which would have to be included?
I think the wording would have to be included that, and all other pertinent cost at the executive director's decision, up to 15% of them and over or something. I mean, there has to be more leeway, because there's going to be stuff that we forget.
Good comment.
And maybe somebody feels 20% the better number, or 12%. I don't know. The 15% is just a guess that I feel like would be more appropriate.
And Madam Chair,
Yep.
again, not trying to get ahead, but I think to a similar point of that, I think that as we try to look and grow certain things, I think to have a completely strict constructionist view of programs, I think that doesn't entirely work, because let's say, for example, we wanted to start a new program. We would actually need, it would need some ramp time, more than likely. If it was, to be a program of the district, it might need some ramp time. So there probably does need to be, and I think that might be covered in that suggestion, but that was something that I think should also be considered.
Agreed, that's a good comment, good thought. Okay, so have we finished with maintenance and operation levy part of it? Okay, Commissioner Fort, you want to go on to what you think should be included in the program user fees should cover? Is that
So
the
this
next
is
part?
basically doors closed, not open. Programs budget should be, covers it when we open the doors to program users and programs. Program users fee revenues, silver sneakers, concessions, locker room rental, open swim, lap swims, swim lessons, water aerobics, aquatic special programs, pool rentals.
Oops, sorry. I apologize. I'm not answering, I'm turning it off. I'll turn this off. Sorry.
Okay, pool rentals, Navy PRT, scuba, kayak lessons, parties, swim and dive meets, high school contract for swim teams, grade school programs, Blue Heron Club and Masters, other special events and programs. Program user fees should cover 25% of the executive director, salary, expenses, payroll, taxes, benefits, 50% of Director of Finance, salary, payroll, taxes, and benefits. I won't keep saying that now. 100% of Director of Client Services, 100% of Director of Aquatics Programs, 100% of Swim Coach, 75% of Custodial Personnel, 100% of Aquatic Lifeguards, 100% of Client Services Front Desk, 100% of Aerobics Instructor, 100% of Kayak Instructor, Program Equipment, Operating Supplies, Program Licenses and Fees, Program Dues, Subscriptions, Memberships, and Advertising Expenses, Program Instructors Education, Repair and Maintenance of Program Equipment, Programs Administrative Costs, Repair and Maintenance of each program's equipment, Program Instructors' Travel Expenses.
Commissioner Singleton, comments?
I think I already, stated the ones that I think maybe go in maintenance and operations. I think other than that, fine.
Okay. I thought that aquatics director, although I see part of her salary, her or his salary, should go towards programs. That's not all she does with her time, so I would say 50% of her salary expenses as opposed to 100%. That's what I thought. And I don't have anything else. Do you have anything?
I think I'm gonna be a little more critical of the program budgets as opposed to the maintenance and operations. There's no way. I mean, we know what it would drive the cost of lap swim up to, for instance. We know that nobody would pay $19 to lap swim, and we know that program would go away. We've got other programs such as the dog park that can never, bring in any money.
Well, the dog park, remember, is covered under M&O.
I understand that. I don't know if that's fair. There are two programs that do pretty well and could sustain. Swim lessons and NWAC could sustain.
Sorry.
The other three programs would be ran out of the door in a hurry. They would just cease to exist, and I don't see, I don't see how anybody could think that lap swim's going to pay for itself. There's no way there. At almost an $70,000 or $80,000 loss, there's no way.
You're basing that with the whole idea that the overhead includes the swim coach's cost. When you take that out, I don't think it's that bad.
I think it actually compounds the issue, but
That's impossible.
So you run that out over the other four programs, and with what certain board members think NWAC lost, then I guess lap swim would still lose $60,000 to $70,000 instead of $70,000 to $80,000, and I guess you charge $17 to lap swim instead of $19. Nobody's going to pay that. It would cease to exist. This whole idea is too restrictive, and if we're going to do the director's job for him, we might as well get a director that we can pay minimum wage and just read from a sheet of paper that a volunteer board put together. This whole meeting's very upsetting.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Commissioner Ford.
You want to speak, or?
Nope, I'm done.
Okay. So, before I got on the board, I went over to the pool at Anacortes and talked to their director there. And I have to admit, for the most part, this is what I got from them, as they had in their levy 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was, in their levy. And she told me at the time, she said, when she took over, this many years ago, they had been having the same problems we're having getting the levy passed. Of course, now they don't have any trouble at all. And she said she changed a lot of things, and now they have no trouble getting the levy passed. Passed close to 75%, I think. I think, I've done the finances on this, and it comes out, I know you're a 75-25. You think the M&O or the taxpayer should be paying 75% of funding the pool, and the user should pay 25%. That's your 75-25 rate. I'm probably closer to a 50-50 guy. Now right now we're at about 57%. It's gradually going up over the years. When the pool first opened up, so I did some research. I went back and listened. When the first pool was first devised, it first opened up in 84? 83. And there was no M&O funding. It was assumed that the taxpayers would pay to build the pool, and the users would pay for all the overhead afterwards. That was probably not very reasonable looking back on it. I mean, I agree. But it's gradually increased over the years. Initially it was about, I think it was about a third of the budget when the first levy passed. And it's gradually increased to now where it's up to 57%. You're proposing 75%. I think it's gotten to the point where the pool is, why don't we just say 100%? Let's just soak the taxpayers for 100% of the pool cost. I mean, we're going from 0 to 75%. It's not much difference going to 75 to 100. I just don't think that the taxpayers are going to support paying more and more of the cost of the pool. I think they'll support it at about 50% or about where we're at now, but not much more. I couldn't support it, to tell you the truth, and I'm a pool user.
Commissioner Hoffmeyer.
On what you just said there, I think if you look at the history of how all the levies in this community have went, such as, a remodeled Oak Harbor High School, which is awesome, or a $7 million football stadium for 50 kids a year to play football on. If you look at the history of this community, they only support one type of M&O levy. They only support one type of capital improvement or construction levy. It's that of youth. This community doesn't support anything other than youth. These continued attacks on NWAC will be the fall of the levy. 2011, I think it was 6 years ago, 2011, in the parade, it was NWAC carrying the banner for the district. It was NWAC and those family members doorbelling. It was NWAC and those family members on the damn street corner. It was NWAC and those family members in front of Walmart. It's the only reason the levy passed the second time. NWAC wasn't out doing that much work until the levy in August failed. NWAC got out and they created I think they took it from 52% to 63%. It's the only way it's going to get there, and I don't even know. Next.
Commissioner Singleton.
I'm just trying to kind of figure out, again, where do we, I think we have kind of impasse, and what I'm trying to figure out is how do we get to a resolution? And I'm trying to, for me, and my apologies if I should have done this before, but we had a strategy and then we kind of realized that wasn't an appropriate strategy, and so we abandoned that strategy, rightfully so. But I think there were lots of numbers put together, but based on how I see things, those numbers aren't representative. And so for me, it's really difficult to visualize how I see it in terms of numbers, or how I see it without, I think what I'm saying is I need to kind of think through.
I agree.
What's
absolutely.
realistic.
You should sit down and think through it and come up with your own.
And I have, but
And we should compare.
And I have.
I mentioned that a long time ago.
And
For some
to a
reason, it never
certain,
got done.
well, no, it's,
Just, we're doing it now.
well, and that was the thing, is we were going to do it as a group. But the difficult part was, hey, share that with everyone. Well, we can't do that. We couldn't do that previous to now. We didn't have the ability to do that, right? That's part of the blessing and the curse of all of this. That just makes it difficult at
Not
times.
so. You're talking about the recent discussion we had with the fellow who came in here and gave us a little talk. The way he's saying to do it is to do your thing, send it to the director with a request that it be sent out to all the board members. And he said that was the correct way to do it.
Okay, I didn't get that message.
That's
So
the way exactly.
I didn't get that. Nonetheless,
Without
we're
pinning
here
down
now,
to it, yeah.
right? So that's not how things played out.
You weren't here for that meeting, but.
Right, correct. Yep.
So I'm just telling you that
Okay.
I pinned him down because I wanted to know. And he said, yes, that you send it to the director and request him to send it out to all board members.
Okay.
Not send it out to all board members yourself.
And I would
Look through.
come back with, okay, so now we know that for next time, we are where we are right now. And I'm trying to, sorry, this is my terminology, is I look for kind of the path to done, which is like, how do we get from where we are to saying that this activity is completed? And that's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
figure
right,
out.
without having a discussion, if it's only my opinion, then we can't have much of a discussion.
Right, and I've shared my opinion, and
Well,
yours is different.
But I
and-
mean, I can't compare, because I can't see yours written down. I mean, I heard what you said, but again, I would like to see something written down, and then we can sort of sit down and sort of maybe work things out and come to a consensus.
And what I was saying is that how I think that could be valuable is applying a different standard to the P&L. It can be a little bit cumbersome and time consuming, and that's part of what's difficult about it. But
Yeah, I wasn't.
well, I
This
think-
is the P&L per se, but it's not the P&L.
right. It is in terms of line items.
Mhm.
Correct. Right. Yeah. But I've heard two things that are very disparate, and part of it is I don't entirely disagree with what you're saying, right? Because here's the thing is we can agree on a list in a vacuum, right? We can agree on that and like, this is the best list in the whole wide world. But I think if we then apply the reality to it that says, hey, you know what, it's just a $20 bill to go lap swimming. And I'm not saying that's what you're suggesting, right? But if that's what the reality came out as, if you're like, no, we don't, so do you support that? Well, no, I supported the list, but not when it meant that I'm going to pay $20 to go lap swimming, right? As an example, no one's coming out with that, but as an example. And so part of it is I think we have to look at the reality of what we believe should be the case, and then the reality of our situation, and find the best balance. And I mean that is what we're doing here. I understand that, but I feel like I don't have enough. I think what I'm saying is I feel like I don't have enough information. That's my point, and it took a really long time to get there, and my apologies for that.
Well, my biggest concern with this whole thing, and when I, saw the numbers from the executive director, and when it became clear that the swim coach's salary was considered part of overhead, that was something that I just had a severe heartache with, because I'm sorry, I think the swim coach's salary is an NWAC expense. And anyone that I ask out in the real world says, yeah, it's like the swim coaches. Why don't you go sit in the back so I don't have to watch your hands, please?
No.
You can't do that. You can ask him about it, but you can't ask him about it.
Oh, okay.
We were told by Bruce that we shouldn't
Wait.
do that even.
Okay.
Unless it was a physical threat.
It's not a physical threat. The swim coach's salary is an NWAC expense. It's not something that should be, other programs need to pay for it, because he doesn't do anything except for the NWAC program. And I know you people consider this a direct threat against NWAC, but it's not. It's just, I'm trying to do the best thing to find the money for maintenance for this facility. And it's like, we are in a bad place. And we have been since before I came on the board. And I'm just trying to do what's best for the district and best for this facility. So, I don't know. It sounds like we're at an impasse. Nobody's got has a motion that they wish to make.
Like Kaz
This topic?
Kaz was wanting to interject something a while back. I don't know if it would help us or not.
Well, all I have to do is address this this topic of the levy, but that's up to the board if they want me to do that.
Right now, we're not talking about the levy. We're talking about what the
You're talking about the
maintenance and
levy.
operations levy, is that what you want to talk about?
You're talking about, I'm talking about exactly what Commissioner Ford's been talking about, what you guys have all been talking about. You guys have gone around and talked about your opinions, but no one's asked me what mine is yet.
Because I've read it, but,
I'd like to hear it
okay,
explained a little
then,
more.
go ahead.
So, first off, I need to correct something, Commissioner Ford. It's not, 75-25 is my approach is, so the cost of a lane hour is overhead. My belief in that overhead is comprised of the things that I consider to be overhead, aren't fee-based things, right? So I'm taxing programs in WAC, all the other four major, actually everything that's here to some extent. I'm taxing them 25% or more of the cost of that lane hour. So it's not that the levy goes to pay 75% and 25% of the revenue is the rest of it. It's the cost of the overhead that the levy now would cover, and that programs would contribute, at least internal programs would contribute 25%. All external things like high school swim and all the other things that you saw in that presentation, even if I only charge them $16, that's actually covering my cost for that lane per hour at cost without a margin built into it. So it's not, if you thought that my approach was, well, the levy needs to pay 75% of the expenses that are incurred by the district a year, that's not what it was. It's in the cost of one lane hour, which is how I broken overhead all the way down. I hope that clears that. My intent is not to go up to $750,000 levy and $250,000 revenue on $1 million budget. That's not the. In fact, by having all the programs contribute to the recovery of the overhead cost, it'll reduce the amount of levy money that's used for that and allow the reserve to be built up quicker. That's my approach. So, I'll go fast here since you guys have hashed it out. I just want to make sure that I clarify some things there. I'll hit what the levy says. And I'm going to hit the main line. I'm not going to read the whole thing there. To pay a portion of the operating and maintenance expenses of the district. And that's the key point in my view. So I looked in the RCWs, I looked in the WAC, I looked in the federal. There is no definition or law that determines what is a maintenance or a maintenance operating expense. And as I said in my paper that I sent to all you guys, I went to industry, so because that's who does it. And there are some differences in the line item things that each individual industry would use to say, oh, this is overhead or this is not overhead. But the bottom line is there's no one set thing legally that says this is maintenance and this is operations. And my definition, which I gleaned across there and then through my experience out in the business world, maintenance is pretty self-explanatory. It's the repair and facility and maintaining and keeping the infrastructure here ready to go. Operating are all the things that go into running the programs outside of maintenance. And some of that includes things like salaries. In the business world, there are two types of people. There are overhead people and there are billable people. Billable people or like lifeguards and CSS and whatever, and swim instructors and aerobic instructors. And the senior level people are not, in most cases, billable. They are not billable, they are overhead. It's the people that go and do the work that are the ones that are considered billable. And that's how I break this out, based on my experience out in the world. So, in my view, and if you guys, I don't need to go through what I think, because I think all the senior staff salaries are overhead. So when you look at that number that I came up with over a year ago as overhead, and divide it by everything, and you've seen all the math, I come to, with a 20% markup, which is just, because I know I won't always get 20%, but I'm shooting for a number, it comes to $20 a lane hour. So every program, internal program, pays me $5 per lane hour. You saw that when I did in the NWAC P&L. You saw it in all of the things that you saw in my paper that I sent out. Every one of them had that in there. It was under the column overhead. Salaries for senior people who, well, let me go back. I have two senior staff that are billable at certain points. And that's reflected in the budget by the fact that it's not just their aquatic director and client service director. Their salaries are reduced in that line item because one spends time at the front desk to the tune of 10 to 12 hours a week, and the other one is a swim instructor, a lifeguard instructor, and sometimes fills in as a lifeguard when needed. So, but during those times, it's under a different code. It goes into those codes for the other things. So when they're doing those things that I would call billable, they're actually being covered by the cost of the programs or the activities that are being covered there. So, in fact, I will just say this: the only thing I disagree with Commissioner Fort's approach is just the salaries of the senior staff. Everything else, I have no problem with. I agree with. In fact, they're in what I do. There might be one or two that I'm missing in here that I don't, but they're so negligible in the amount that goes into it that I don't consider those to be even, they're not even really rounding errors. At worst, they're a rounding error. So, I'll just move forward. So, you sent out the one email about the NWAC in your thing. So I took your numbers and I put it into the spreadsheet. You guys all have this up there. And your number came to a $75,000 deficit for them, right? In that one email you sent out.
I'm sure,
so,
sure that sounds about right. But
yeah.
I don't
It
have that in
did.
front of me.
And so all I did was take your numbers and put it into the format I use.
Uh-huh.
And it still came to the same
It's
number.
in this big thing you get
Okay, yeah.
that we got.
So,
This one here.
so your math is not wrong. It's the approach that you take versus the approach that I take in there, and it's the assumptions. You use different assumptions. 16%, and you consider payroll processing, but not the payroll taxes to be a cost, or at least I consider payroll processing to be a cost of doing business, an overhead cost. Payroll taxes.
I considered it all as 16%, and I got that basically from when you had a meeting about a year ago with the accountant, and he's the one who suggested it should be 16%, 14% for the taxes, and 2% for the billing of it.
2 years ago.
Okay.
It was before you were here.
I use the numbers that we have here, and it comes out to about 13%. So that's what's in the budget.
What the accountant told them at that time.
Okay.
Our accountant.
Well, I don't know that he's our accountant, because we don't really have an accountant, but.
Well, there was somebody here who was
Yeah.
giving them accounting advice.
Right, okay, but I use a different number because that's what the budget for 17 was based on, was 17%. Salaried employees, we don't get charged 13% because we don't pay L&I. So 3 of us don't have L&I costs except when we're on vacation. Weird as it sounds, that's done hourly, so now we get an L&I at like some really small percent. So coach, maintenance, and myself don't get, we're only 7.65 or 7.62%, whatever. Yes, sir.
Again, when I listened to the presentation by that accountant, he based his 16% on taking it straight from our thing and took out there was two places in there, the amount it cost to payroll, to do payroll, and then all the taxes. And he basically used that, and it came out to really a little less than 14% for one. It was like 13 plus some percent for the, and then about 2% for the.
So if you take out
So
the
he made
payroll,
it 16%.
if you take out the payroll processing thing, we're back down near my 13% that I've used when I did the 17 budget.
Why would you take out payroll processing costs?
Because I think that's the cost of doing business.
Well,
There's been, so we can sit
Okay.
here and discuss it.
Okay,
but
all right.
I'm the one that you hired to do it. So that was the choice I made. Vacation, so I'm going back to your thing there. Vacation, if you're going to use actuals, you can't use a future liability. So, but it's $439. It's not going to move this number anyway. So I say that. Your lane hour assumptions are for 5,000, but they're actually 4,712. There's no lifeguard gets used for inland. There are coaches out there. In fact, today when he had the thing out there, there's no lifeguard here. Whenever a kid threw up, he had to pull everyone out of the water. Get out of the water, he had to go clean it up. He does whatever a lifeguard does because he's responsible through his certifications for whenever the NWAC is in the pool. It doesn't matter if someone else is in the pool and lifeguards are there. They're there for the other people. If those people all leave, if there's a kid in the waiting pool and they leave, the lifeguard goes off deck. They may be still scheduled, but that 2.5 hours in the afternoon this year that we don't have a lifeguard there, that's whenever the high school swims, and that's when the NWAC is here for sure, and there's no lifeguard in the building.
So the lifeguard's not being paid when the swim team is here.
They're not here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're not here. They're off duty.
Because I was under the impression that he didn't feel he could be a lifeguard and coach at the same time. I thought you brought that up to me before, but that's okay.
No, if I said that, I misspoke how I
So you
presented it.
did. So I was misrepresenting.
Okay.
I
Okay.
Madam Chair.
misconstrued that.
Just to clarify that point, there was a period of time in which we opened the kiddie pool and the spa, and that's where that comment came from. Just to put it in its proper place was because it was during practice that our expectation actually was not that one person would be doing all of those things. And so that was I would call that a limited engagement, and was determined that it wasn't something we wanted to work with.
And when I took over, I ended the practice of lifeguards being here on 7 to 10 on Saturday. If the coach was cleared or certified, and that's his job to be that for the NWAC, that's why from 7 to 10 o'clock when they're here on Saturday mornings, you don't see a CSS or you don't see a lifeguard here, unless there's some other activity going on that they have to do that. So whenever you change that, so the net of all that is, whenever I take your numbers and correct them with what my assumptions in there and get rid of the stuff that shouldn't be in there, it's a $48,000+ lowering of the cost of NWAC. So using that number, it comes down to almost $27,000 instead of the $75,000. So again, my only difference with Commissioner Fort's approach is the salaries. And I think senior staff, when they're acting as senior staff and not in a billable role as two of them are, that's overhead. That's the way it's done in every company I've ever been in. A vice president or a director in a company his pay doesn't matter on what work's being done by the people that work for him, unless they have some billable role in some case. So that's my approach to it.
So what are the profits and losses of each program then?
Well, that's the next topic, so I'll come to that in the next
I'll
topic.
come up a little bit, okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we talked about this. This is where I basically got my information from that I more or less wrote down. This was from when I talked to the lady who was the director over there at the pool in 2011 before I took over. This is what she handed me. She said they were having the same problem, and this is the levy that they presented in 2012. They passed this all out to people, and basically they broke it down the same way I did, programs and budget. And for the most part, I took exactly what she said. She put for programs 25% of the directors, 50% of the business, 100% of the aquatics and youth aquatics. The youth aquatics was the swim team coach. 90% of the custodian salary, I did 100, I did a little different, but, and 100% CSS cashiers, aquatic lifeguards, it's all in here. It's basically the same thing that they're doing over there.
I know, I recognized it when I saw your email.
Yeah, so this is not, and they don't, and they've been, and so we have nothing in we have no reserve fund. They have probably 200,000 or better, because they've been able to put money away every year rather than have a deficit every
Right.
year.
Did she tell you how many years it took her to get there?
And they are basically, even though their levy is only 13.9% and ours is 17, it's about the same amount, they get about the same amount of levy as we do each year. So they're managing to make money with the same amount of levy income as we do per year. Or put money in a reserve fund up to a few $100,000, and we have basically not much.
And she told you it took her 7 years to get to that point, right?
Yes, she did, but she said after she started, but it was only after she started doing it this way.
No, that's not what she told me, but okay.
And so, again, the swim team pays for all the costs of the swim team, including the coach. The coach is not a separate salary.
Quiet, please.
It's paid for by the swim team's contributions. 100%. That's what she told me, and it's in here.
Well, he has other programs that pay his salary too.
Are you-
Oh, so he's doing more than one, he's not just doing the swim team?
No, he has, he coaches the high school, so he gets all the revenue from the high school.
Oh, well, maybe we could do that.
This school won't do that.
I mean, why don't we start being a little,
Well,
Creative.
now we're moving beyond what this is.
well,
finish?
basically, you still believe it should be, you're using 75-25, you believe the coach's salary should be 75% from the taxpayers and 25% from the users. That's basically, comes out about $45,000 a year.
Well, his cost of his salary is in a lane hour, so. if
Cost of
that's
his
the way-
salary, the 15% or 13% of the taxes that you're talking
He's
about.
only 7.5, but we don't pay L&I, and salaried people don't pay L&I.
Okay, and so it'll only be 7.5, and then there's his $6,000 a year we pay for health insurance. So maybe it's only $40,000. But it's
Well,
still, I don't think
his
we
total
should.
compensation package is 61, a little over 61,000, like you said.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
And you're saying 45% of that, so that's where I came up with 45%. So 45%, $45,000, they're not paying that, apparently the program that's using it, or the programs, because it's apparently not just the youth swim team, it's also the high school swim team pays the salary too, so you're saying. That's the reason.
Well, he gets the revenue for them coming in too.
Okay, well, that would be reasonable. So maybe we need to be creative about how we utilize the coach so we can make more money and not be taking $45,000 a year from the M&O fund levy. And basically, we went from, I think, $200,000. I think, at least I can never quite figure this out, but it looked like we had probably 4, maybe 5, 6 years ago, we had $200,000 in excess, and then somehow we kept spending, our budget kept going over $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year, and we basically burned that all up in 4 or 5 years. So that we have nothing.
It's not
Essentially
nothing, it's-
Well, but
It's all 70,000 right now.
Well,
Oh, wait, we took some
no.
out.
It's about a third of what was there.
he just had to borrow $15,000. He's gonna probably have to borrow another $15,000.
Probably not, I don't think so, but
Kinda.
I'll know here in
Okay.
a couple of weeks.
So we need to basically, you would like to increase the amount of money we have reserved, because we put off for years and years. we've got some terrible maintenance problems that probably the total cost of those are gonna be a couple $100,000 that we put off for years. The leaky roof, that we kind of, everything, what we do is we don't do any preventive care now too much. We basically wait till something breaks down, and then we scramble around, flows down the pool or whatever, just let it go cold, and then we fix it.
Well,
I
that's
think we should be doing some preventive care, and we could do some preventive care and programmed obsolescence if we weren't spending every nickel we have on, and we had some reserve on this whole pool. For example, apparently we were able to years ago be able to build up a reserve. Now we can't build up a reserve very much.
Add something?
Yeah, are you done?
I am.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffmeyer?
I think when we looked at Anacortes, I think when we talked about Anacortes, it took them 7 years to get there. And with a board that seen Marilyn's vision and didn't micromanage her. My biggest problem here is, well, first of all, I think what we have is, I think we have a board that all too often, I think they're enjoying the comfort of opinion without experiencing the discomfort of thoughtfulness and fact. We've got all the facts in the world in front of us, and I don't know what the hell we're doing. You know, we had an interim director for a year plus that, by her own admissions, didn't understand the money side of things at all, and we didn't do none of this. The smartest thing this board did was hiring a money person that knows what's going on, and now we're going to try to make it to where he can't do his job. And the other thing I don't get, over the years I've heard this commissioner quote Marilyn, or this commissioner quote Marilyn, or another commissioner quote Jason. Then I'll hear the executive director will quote them. And when I hear him talk, what he says that they say is what I've been told by them. So I would venture to guess that the executive director of Anacortes, Maryland, that their swim coach up there, Jason, that our past executive director here, Bill Walker, I would venture to guess, I guess Bill Walker was a director and not an executive director, I would venture to guess that none of those people appreciate them being taken out of context potentially and read into the record. And I don't give a damn what any of them say. If they want to say it, then come here and say it. Otherwise, I don't appreciate it being read into the record, because I think people are bending the facts for their own usefulness, and or maybe it's just via a misunderstanding. The job for executive director was posted in the paper a couple of times, and none of us applied for it because none of us are qualified. And I'm trying pretty hard to not get upset about this. I don't understand why we didn't do any of this when we had an interim director that admits to not knowing what was going on. And now we're going to try to do it because everything's going right. And, you know, we turned a profit this year. We've got a couple of programs that turned a profit. And we're going to try to poke holes in things and say it's not good enough. It's not good enough until it's gone. Or don't pat yourself on the back too hard. I would venture to guess that every senior staff here, if I was a senior staff here, I'd be looking for a job, because this is a clown show. How are they supposed to know that they're going to have work come February of 18 or something? This is, if all of us take a step back, I think every one of us knows that our intentions may be well, but the appearance of this is very poor and very ill-timed against the advice of the executive director. These type of things had been suggested to all of us that we wait. I've used enough of my time.
All right. So we're not moving forward. So let's go to the. I'm going to end this discussion because that's apparently nobody wants to make a motion on anything. So going to the program P&L comparison.
Before we move on, can we put this on our agenda for our regular meeting? I know that there are other things on that as well, but can we just kind of do a continuance? I mean, we brought it up as a topic.
Yeah. Okay. Put it on the next regular meeting.
Okay, thanks.
And I request that each director come up with some thoughts that they were willing to discuss?
Commissioner? Each commissioner?
Commissioner, yeah.
Oh, I actually knew that that's what he meant, but I thought we all did, so do you want our,
Does everybody agree with what I'm saying?
I had different numbers, but it's like, I agreed.
I would lean more towards accepting it with the senior staff removed from your equation.
Okay, so, next regular meeting, all right. All right, and Commissioner Hoffmark asked that the executive director share his P&L comparison with us, and so we all got that. Do you want to say something else, Mr. Executive Director? You said a lot of it already in that last discussion, so what else do you want to add to?
Well, I think, what, the numbers in here on the first half of it are the way I've been doing it all year, so, I mean, I know that not everyone's going to agree with that, but these are the way the numbers come out, and whenever you bring the numbers out of here, I'll just highlight each program. I'm almost $70,000 in the hole, so when we talk about subsidizing programs, I'm subsidizing almost $70,000 in lap swim. I'm subsidizing, by my method, $30,000 in open swim, 30-something thousand dollars, where is it, $30,000 aerobics. Swim school, hey, swim school's good. They brought in 20 grand in profit on my way of doing it. In fact, by either method, by any method you would do it in here, swim school would stay profitable. It would just reduce the profitability. So I can move ahead there. When I move over, and then the NWAC on there, you can see the NWAC thing in there, using the actuals from 2016, using the methodology I use for every other program in there, they made almost $53,000. So, as I've said, my only difference with Commissioner Fort's methodology and approach to it is what it goes into overhead, and it's only salaries. That's the only thing I disagree with him on in there. So, so I did a calculation here. If I took all those salaries out that he said to take out, and then, I'm sorry, I don't have these page numbered, but it's the new program overhead calculation.
Isn't that the new thing you handed us?
No, it's in the slide. It's the one you have stapled there right in front of you. It's in there.
It
But
is.
you go about halfway through, and it'll
See, I
say.
did number the pages, I'm trying to figure out.
I should have numbered them, but I didn't. I apologize for that.
North Whidbey Park and Recreation District Program P&L now?
Actually, the page will be new program overhead calculation is what it'll say. It'll come.
Yeah, that's one
Okay.
here.
Yeah, that one there. Exactly. So again, using this.
Page 12.
Is that what you get to? Okay. When you pull all those things that Commissioner Fort wanted out of there, using what I consider to be the numbers that I use, 13, and then the salaried people don't pay 13, and then the percentages, out of the, I'm going to round it to 560,000, it's a couple thousand short, it drops almost $180,000 out of the overhead. So, but now you create something new called a program overhead, because the money doesn't just go away, the revenue doesn't go away, it's got to still be recovered. So now, the next page on there, you can see what happens. So you take all of these lane hours, and you come up with, actually, if you go to the lane hour column, that's the one that really matters. You take that 174, well, all right, so it's not going to change it anything. 174,000, which is actually the more accurate number, divided by the number of lane hours that the internal programs use, you're coming up with $8 an hour now that you have to tax onto the internal programs, $8 a lane hour. So you have to put that in there, because you can't just say, I'm going to do this. Now, what it does do, I will tell you, if you go to the, well, no, it's not, oh, that's the next, like if you're moving a column over the box on the right-hand side there. What it does do is it reduces what I call my original overhead, or the levy overhead, however you want to term it. It reduces it from $5 to $4 per lane hour, and that's at the 25% number. That's if I'm the 25% factor. It would go from 20 to 15 on the, with the margin in it. And so while you reduce the levy overhead by $1, you're now increasing the program overhead by $8, or you created an $8 per lane hour, which is a net of $7 a lane hour for each program now that you have to add into it. So you have to, because now you've said those costs are not covered in the levy overhead. If this goes on to its what you guys want it to be is the fruition. So the next page on lap swim costs there, you can see levy overhead. Now that overhead changed to levy overhead, and then there's the column for a program overhead, which now adds $8. And then now you have a total cost per hour for lap swim. Now that asterisk there, that means that top row is using the 75-25 method. I'm only charging them 25% of the, because it's an internal program. Now it's $86 an hour, which would be about $15 a lane hour. If everyone paid the full price, which is what mine was based on too earlier, of $5, I would need 17 swimmers in the pool per hour. It means I'm going to need 3. Yes, sir.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to need 3 swimmers in a lane per hour up until 12. And after 12, the next one down, PM lap swim with 2 lifeguards, I'm going to need 4 swimmers in a lane per hour. Now, we all know lap swimmers like to have a lot of people in their lane. What that does, well, yeah, I know. What that does, if you go to the next page there, it moves my number of 69,300, because now what I did for revenue, since I don't have a way to break out revenue for lap swim, at least not one that we've figured out yet. We're trying to figure out if we can make that happen for this year so we can get it more accurate. So I just went, if everyone in the morning, and this is a hand count, by the way. I went through and hand counted this. I hand counted this, I hand counted everything. 11,877 lap swimmers came in this past year. And no kidding, almost exactly 1/3 are in the morning, and the other 2/3 come in the afternoon. And that's exactly the way it came out. So I took that 11,877 times 1/3, came to the number of lap swimmers times $5. That's how much I would have made if everyone paid $5. And then I did the same thing in the afternoon. If the remainder paid $350, I would have made $27,850 on there, which would have been $47,450. And if you go back to the page before, using now the cost went up from my $116,000 to $125,000. When you look at the new overhead per lane at 25%, it increased the deficit of lap swimming up almost $8,000. So we'll call it $7,000. It moved, and so if you take that number and divide it by the number of lap swimmers, I'd have to charge $10, almost $11 an hour, and hope I didn't lose a single lap swimmer. I mean, that's what that number means down there. We moved to the next one for open swim. The same methodology was in. I had to create a program overhead number now of $8. It increased things, but it took me now to. I have where's my number? 18,898 open swimmers last year. If you take 18,098 times the total cost, which the total cost you can see a little above came up to $136,000, I'd have to be charging $7.22 for them to come in here to break even. Oh, actually, that would include my margin, so forget that. That would include my margin. I would have to do that. So you can see when you reduce the levy overhead, as I call it, or the original I called overhead, you reduce it by $1, but you still have to recover the salaries, the portions of the salaries and salaries that Commissioner Fort suggests should be covered by programs. This is how it comes out. In aerobics, it moves it from my $30,000 up to $36,000. Now, if everyone paid, and that was done on actual aerobics revenue. If everyone in aerobics paid full price, $550, it'd only be just shy of $20,000 in the hole, which is good. But there are 4 ways that people pay for aerobics. So it's not. I don't get that number. Swim school.
Can you figure out how much you get from aerobics?
No, because I have 4 methods to do it. We're trying to instrument it, so this year I
it
can't
seems like
do
it's
it.
very complicated.
Yes, we're trying to figure out how we can make ESOF more friendly for us on that. So if you move next to swim school, creating that new program overhead now brings 20 grand of profit down to 8,700. But the good news is still it's profitable. So swim school, we're doing okay with. Now when you take and you move to the next one, NWAC, and you create that, so you can see I added in program overhead, 4,712 times the $8, this is almost 38,000. Now NWAC is 27, almost 28 grand in the hole. Whenever you create that new thing, it went from 5,300 up to 28 in the hole. So then I had the comparison slides on there. And then I gave you 2 new slides there, but I'll just stop here if you want to. The other 2 were based on NWAC being its own entity. But if I go over them if you want, but otherwise I'll stop here at this. So I took my methodology and we're running a deficit of $104,000 that's being...
No, go ahead. I'm just waiting to know, let you know I want to talk when you...
Okay, Roger. Whenever I changed that to the methodology of Commissioner Fort, it increases it to $197,000, which I did the difference in the square at the bottom, and it's almost $93,000 in additional, on paper, this is on paper, because that's all this really is, it's an additional $93,000 of programmatic expense that would be expected to be covered. Then the discussion becomes, how do we cover that? But when you rack each program done the same way, either methodology, you can see where they all stand. Yes, sir.
So, number of questions. So in the program for you came up with a $27,700 deficit for the what would be part for the swim team.
Yeah, on using your number.
But you didn't. I guess what you're using there is 25%, 25% and 75%. It looks like coaching costs. So you're still discounting $45,000 of the coach's costs.
Okay, so what? No, because in that overhead.
Where's the coach's salary in there?
Okay, so let me do this. The coach's salary is in what is called overhead, and that's spread across all the programs.
So I'm saying you took that's $18,848. That's about 25% of his total cost.
I said that the overhead is where his salary is spread out across all the users of the pool, just like all the other senior staff salaries are.
So, yeah, but I mean, everybody else in the administration has some other function other than swim team. He has no other function other than swim team.
He wasn't hired for any other function other than swim team. Now that can be looked at, but he wasn't hired for any other function. He was hired, according to his contract, to be the head swim coach.
Exactly. So you took basically his salary plus a little bit else, I guess, the $18,000, because it would really be about $15,000 of that would be his, right? Of the 20, if it's 25%.
No, because all the overhead, if you look at the line that says overhead, where it says 23,560, is that the line you're looking at?
I'm looking at, are we looking at the same thing, NWAC?
Which one are you on, yours or mine? It doesn't matter, that number's going to be the same. Oh, no, actually.
Commissioner Fort's
No,
methodology.
Commissioner Fort's, okay.
No,
I'm coming back here.
Commissioner Fort's methodology.
So the overhead 18, that's because when you take those salaries out of the overhead, when you take those salaries out,
Well, only Commissioner Fort's, I don't see his. Anyway, Commissioner Fort's, methodology, the page 19 total.
right,
Yeah, so basically, you're talking about overhead, you have 18,848,
right.
okay? And you're saying that's where the coaches, that's the coach's part.
No, that's where all the seniors, that's where everything that's overhead is in that.
But we're just talking about the swim team here.
It doesn't matter, overhead is overhead. Overhead is district-wide. So that's where, that $20 per lane hour that I use as my cost there, that covers all the things that you wanted in overhead, except we don't agree on the salary part. And when you take all those things and break them down, that comes to 20. So this one here, so here's what I did. So I took all those numbers you wanted out. I took them out, and that's what your number here is, but I had to create this new row in there called program overhead, and that's where those salaries are now, because those salaries have to be spread across the programs.
If I could
So
say
you're still
something.
dividing it 75-25, no matter how you do it.
Not on the program
You're
overhead.
you're not taking the $61,000 that it costs to have a coach
It's
and put it in here. It's not in here. And so you still, and even in yours, you say $45,000 of the coach's salary should be paid for out of M&O levy. It's in here. So
You're reading numbers into something that aren't numbers. I said all of those senior staff salaries are buried in overhead, like any other business I've ever been in. The directors, vice presidents, presidents, all the people that would be considered non-billable people for their non-billable time are overhead. So those are in what I consider to be overhead, and I took that with all the maintenance and all the other things that I agree with you on.
right.
And that's how I
Everybody is 75-25 is the way you do it.
internal programs are.
Yeah.
And so that cost of an internal, that cost per lane hour, $20, I'm asking each internal program to pay $5 of it. External programs, those ones that you saw in that one pie chart there, they all pay full or more.
Except why should they be paying towards the coach? The coach only has one program that he's responsible for.
But-
Everybody else has all the other programs they're responsible for.
Everyone pays for everything. So the NWAC, whenever I tax the NWAC, this overhead thing, 23,560 or 18, well actually that's on, in your number here, it's not in there. That 23,560, that gets spread across every single
So
district
everybody else
program.
is subsidizing the coach's $45,000.
Everyone in here, well, Commissioner, if you look at lap swim, everyone in here is subsidizing $69,000 to $78,000 of lap swim.
Yeah, and I agree. I actually, if you remember back, I said we should raise the afternoon rate to $5. I didn't get a second on it.
I don't disagree with you, but that's not going to be enough.
I know, but it would still be about the same percentage.
So what do we do about lap swim? We want to go after NWAC for it being only
Because I disagree with your
$27,000.
number with,
Okay,
Right. because you
gentlemen,
disagree
gentlemen,
with my number. Yeah.
Don't
yeah.
talk over each
20
other and
20
chill.
and
Chill.
45,000.
You're getting aggressive.
Down to
Just chill.
60-some, or closer to $70,000 a year subsidy for the swim team, not the 22.
No.
Because you're counting it as, well, we're just,
You
everybody pays.
can't have it both ways. If it's covered in overhead, it's covered in overhead. You can't have it both ways. If you want to take it out of overhead, then I have to create program overhead, and it's now in that number.
Swim coach works for only one program. Everybody else that you're talking about works for all the programs, not just the one program.
Quiet, please.
Who does swim coach work for other than the swim?
He works for the swim team. He works for me.
Solely for
running-
the swim
running
team.
the
He
swim
has no
team.
other duties other than the swim team.
Yeah, and
Everybody else has duties other than the swim
And
team.
Matt only runs
including the swim
maintenance.
team. Yeah,
Okay, and Julie only runs client services and communications. She doesn't work for
but
Jessica.
part of that is the swim team.
And
Maintaining
part of
the
it's
swim team.
everything else too.
But not anything that the coach does has anything to do with maintaining the pool, maintaining the budget, operating the place, anything else. It's only for the pool, the swim team. That's it, zero. He has no other,
Then who am
no
I for?
other cost.
And who am I for?
You basically, you run the swim team, you run the pool, you run everything.
Right,
You're not-
so everyone in here pays for me too.
But they, yes,
And
but they
everyone
pay for
in
you
all-
because everybody in here utilizes your services. Not everybody who comes to the pool utilizes the swim coach's services.
So
As a matter of fact, probably only a minority of the people who come to the pool utilize the
how
swim
many
coach's
lap swimmers do you think come in here on a year? Unique lap swimmers?
I come in here, I don't utilize the swim coach.
No. How many unique lap swimmers are in here
What
in a
is the
year?
unique lap swimmer?
I have 11,877 lap swimming instances, but how many of those are unique people?
If there are 50 people on NWAC, how many
Oh,
people?
yeah, I don't know how many that is, because I mean, I swim here too.
95 to 100
Yeah,
that come in here and swim that. So 95 to 100 people now cost me $70,000.
I'm not saying we should probably raise the lap swim rate too.
Are you going to raise it to $9 to $10 to $11?
But I don't get a swim coach. I'm saying that the swim team should pay the cost of being in the pool, utilizing the pool, and the same percentage that I pay to utilize the pool, but I don't get a swim coach.
Well,
And so
I
we
understand.
should subtract that swim coach And then we're basically, they're paying for using the pool. But they're not paying for that swim coach.
Well, you and I aren't gonna agree.
No, we're not gonna agree.
Okay.
Because you basically put in there that 75% should be
I put
coming.
in there that 75% of the district overhead is.
But I don't consider that a district overhead when only
Okay,
one
and
program
that's
uses
where we
it.
disagree. That's
Yeah,
okay.
okay,
I don't
and I
agree with
agree.
you on
All right.
that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, go.
The reason I asked for this program P&L comparison across the board was, first of all, any comments towards me or looks towards me, it doesn't bother me. I don't take it personal. That said, the reason I asked for this, I think it was roughly 2 months ago. I sit here and I said that I felt that NWAC was one of the 2 most profitable and or productive programs within the district. And at the time, I might not get the verbiage exactly right, but I think the verbiage was, what's wrong with you? How could you think that? I was looked at as I possibly had a learning disability or a severe arithmetic program, or a severe arithmetic problem. I have neither. But regardless, the reason I could feel that way, the reason I could think that, is because I'm not wearing blinders. I don't have any bias. The reason I could feel that way is because that's how it is. No matter whose math you use, no matter whose arithmetic you use, whether one person's math is stilted or the other's, the outcome's the same. It is one of the 2 most productive programs here. And it's been that way for 20 years. I truly believe that this pool would not be here without NWAC over the last several decades.
Pool started without anyway.
It did start without it.
It did.
That doesn't change what I
It
said.
wasn't
The pool,
especially-
the pool's been here longer than 20 years. It doesn't change what I said.
The NWAC started in '84.
Soon after the pool opened, but not.
Okay, let Commissioner Hoffmeyer finish his
Part-time
comment.
coach.
Okay, let Commissioner Hoffmeyer finish his comment. He was polite while you had your discussion, so let him finish.
I'm sorry. I did not mean to get so upset. Regardless, the reason I asked for it was, even though maybe some of us have our biases or don't, I think every one of us are here for the right reason. And I think every one of us, given the executive director job performance eval that we did 4 or 5 months ago, I think we all think that he is doing a pretty darn good job. And I felt that with this P&L comparison, that we were to the point where we could all use the facts, and that it would certainly, all I wanted was for the facts to persuade some thoughtfulness. And if we truly believe Steve is still doing a good job, I think we should let him do his job. And I think all of this should be taken up with the 2018 budget myself. But anyway, again, sorry, Commissioner Ford. That's all I have right now.
Does anyone have any other questions for the director?
I'd just like to make a comment, and I think some of this fundamentally is, the word fact gets used a lot, but I think, what I would say, and I think it took a long time to get to, is that for some of this, the program P&L using Commissioner Fort's methodology, I would have to disagree that it actually does use his methodology, and that's what he was trying to get at. And so I think, there are fundamental disagreements about how you calculate the numbers, and really much of it does come down to that. And I think that's part of what we're trying to resolve. And I think it's important to note that the reason why we feel it's important to do this now and not a year from now is because there are people on different sides of what they think that the taxpayer money should be spent on, and I believe it was brought up as a mindfulness of let's clarify this so that the voters are aware of what is included. I mean, that's what I thought we were doing. That's why I thought we were doing it. And if I've missed that, then I suppose I have in fact missed the mark. But I thought that that's part of what our objective was, so that we're laying out very clearly. And I thought that Commissioner Fort had provided me with a copy of this presentation as well. And I thought that's what this was too, was basically something to help clarify at that time what this levy, and I think this is
What they're doing over someplace else?
right. But in this case, I thought it was actually part of levy material.
But I've
Maybe
given
not.
you my material. I gave you mine.
I understand that. I understand that. I'm just trying to explain, that's why I thought we were talking about this right now. And taking it from an overall perspective. I thought that was the value of the discussion, and I think it's valuable.
I think that's wishy-washy. I don't think you're going to take a stand. And I'm sorry about that, so I actually thought you were going to take a stand. But anyway.
Well, no, we're not. Please. You know what? Here's the thing. I actually will take a stand, but part of it is there's nothing here for me to vote for or against right now. And we
I've never
haven't.
intended it to vote, because I wanted basically some other, how other people, and again, I took this, as I told you, I took this more or less directly from what they were doing over at Anacor.
I understand that.
So, you know, the coach came up, but the director came up with, they actually $5,278 surplus for NWAC based on the way he calculated it. But his methodology also was $45,000. For the $45,000 for the coach's salary came out of that 75-25. Yes, you did. You just did it. So it's $45,000 of his salary. Okay. So you're saying everybody swimming here should pay the coach's salary, even though nobody gets to utilize it. They get to utilize everybody else's, including yours, facility.
They can join the team.
Huh?
They can join the team or join
Oh,
Masters.
so that's it, huh? So they either join the team or,
Well,
too bad.
no one gets to use the swim instructors unless they take swimming lessons.
but that's fully covered. You just said that they're making a profit.
Well, yeah, they're making a profit.
Yeah. So I'm not saying,
Anyone can come use lap swim.
and again,
I'm
and
not
I think
losing
the
70
swim
grand a
team
year.
should be able to come here and rent the pool too, just like everybody else. And pay the same percentage of the cost of overhead neglecting the coach.
Commissioner, our difference is
the coach.
only the coach. So
Exactly.
So there's only really one difference between the way you and I
Exactly,
are
you're right,
approaching
you're
it.
right, there is only
So
one
we've already
difference. I don't
established
think a coach is the same as every other worker here in this pool.
that. Okay, I respect your opinion. I just disagree with it, but I respect your opinion.
Okay?
For
Every other
clarification,
worker here works for does everything.
It's not the only difference, and that's the thing, is if it was the only difference, then I think we would have something to say, here's a resolution. There are more differences than that, which is part of why, I don't take offense at you calling me wishy-washy, I'm fine with that. I'd like to get to a point of clarity where we say, this is what we want to move forward with, and I don't believe that we're there yet. And that's, so I'm not sure, if I'm being wishy-washy, it's because I don't see something that meets
So
the
you
needs.
want me to come in and say, this is what I think we should do, and let's vote on it right now, and not get anybody else's opinion?
I didn't, that's not what I said.
I asked for everybody else's opinion. I said, this is my opinion of how it should be done.
We got
And I got the coach's opinion how it should be done, but I got nothing from anybody else here about how it should be done.
We just talked about it.
We did talk about it, but again, you tend to seem to think that you agree more or less with what I put down here.
And I do.
I cannot determine, and he disagrees.
He disagreed completely, which is
But I cannot tell from whether you agree or disagree.
Well,
You seem to go both ways.
I don't think that I do. I think what I'm trying to do is listen, number one. And
fine.
I believe that at the beginning I had questions. Quiet, please. At the beginning I had questions because part of it was I was trying to understand where those numbers came from, right? And so perhaps you knew something that I didn't, right? And I was willing to
So ask me
understand
where
that.
you think it's come from, and I'll tell you.
Well, I did.
And didn't I answer this?
You did. It doesn't
Okay.
mean that I agree with you.
Okay, yeah, no,
It means
no,
that
no,
now
no.
I understand the
So
impetus for it.
Where do you disagree? Tell me where you disagree, and we can have a discussion.
I
Huh?
did.
We're actually not back on issue number 1, we're on issue number 2 already. We moved beyond that because nobody had a motion to pass. Commissioner Hoffmeyer, are we still on number 2 for you?
Just really quick on what was recently said.
Okay.
For the record, as far as nobody else giving their opinion, I gave my opinion on the record. I'm the only person to make a motion. That's my opinion.
I didn't say you did. I said you didn't agree with us.
Also,
You
my
have your
opinion,
Everything will be
also,
funded by the.
my opinion also is with the one disagreement that Kaz keeps talking about, the salaried or the full-time employees, is the senior staff, if you will. That's the only real disagreement I have.
Right, and I agree. I don't think swim coach is a senior staff when he only works for one program.
I think the district, or I think the board, I think when we created our 2018 budget, our 2017 budget, I think we felt that way. I think in June, when the director gave his 3-year plan for NWAC, I feel that the board loosely approved of that. I think the board has voted to increase the NWAC dues a couple of times, 2 or 3 times over the last couple of years. And so I feel that the opinion that you have now isn't, maybe it's consistently been your opinion throughout, but I don't think that that's been the opinion of the board. And I don't think it was the opinion of the board when we unanimously approved the 2017 budget.
I disagree.
I disagree.
I disagree.
Then why is it in the budget?
Having it in the budget doesn't have anything to do with whether it's
We
overhead or
hadn't
not.
had
Yeah.
a discussion about changing it. That's why.
It was a
We
big
now
shock.
have a discussion about changing it for the future budget.
It was a huge shock to me to find out that the executive director considered this swim coach's salary not an NWAC expense, but as part of the overhead. That was a huge shock to me. And I said so. And unfortunately, it's continued on because we didn't say anything or do anything about it.
I wasn't surprised to learn that the executive director was treating NWAC the same as every other program.
It's not a matter of being treated as every other program. It's a matter of here is an expense that is solely NWACs, and yet you expect the lap swim program and the aerobics program to pay for a swim coach that they have nothing to do with. And it's a huge expense, huge. And it should be paid for by the program that
Well,
does it.
I-
Sorry, I'm talking now. And you talked about, NWAC is a great program for the kids. It really is. I agree. However, we are a small town. We can't afford it. It's, for whatever reason, it's grown beyond the capability of this organization to pay for it when we have maintenance to pay for. We have lots of maintenance that we've got to find the money for. And where there's a big ticket item that if the parents would pay for it, I'm fine with NWAC existing. I don't mind it. I just want them to pay for it. I don't think this organization, this district, needs to pay for their kids' competitive swimming. End of story. That's how I feel. Now, go. Are you going to say something different or continue to laud?
Different.
Okay.
If we have 3 board members that feel that way, then I would implore those 3 board members to question why we have an executive director that doesn't feel that way. We can afford it. Under either numbers, we can afford it. NWAC doesn't just make $5,000 a year or lose $27,000 a year as it may be. As I've said 100 times, and I think the director and everybody in this room would agree, how much is the levy a year? $585,000?
580 roughly.
$580,000.
We'd be $593, we're paying back $15,000 a year.
$580,000?
6,000 a year, this is the last year.
That's the amount of money that NWAC brings in to this facility. That's also the amount of money that the dog park brings into this facility. It's also the amount of money that the swim lessons bring into this facility, or lap swim. Lap swim, 95 unique swimmers. Maybe those people have spouses or family members. NWAC, 50 unique swimmers. Hopefully we can get more. They have parents that vote. Let's just say 100. 100 people voting one way as opposed to the other.
I think,
That's all the levy will pass by. In any of our wildest dreams, what are we thinking, 63%? We're talking 100 votes going this way instead of that way. That's it. we can't afford to lose a single one of our programs. If we do, we're like, we have this $27,000 a year debit that we would really like to get rid of. But we're foregoing the 6 or 7 or the 8 credits that brings in. You know, we're forgetting that maybe NWAC's a feeder program for our employees. Maybe we wouldn't have as many kids in swim lessons without NWAC. Maybe we wouldn't have as many birthday parties without NWAC. Maybe we wouldn't sell as much food at the front desk. You lose this one debit, and you lose all these other credits, and then you lose the levy. And by February or March of 2018, there's going to be fingers pointing at not just 3 of us, at 5 of us. I don't want the blame for this place closing. If some kid drowns at City Beach because they didn't learn how to swim, I sure as hell don't want the blame for that. The damage has already been done. Hopefully the new board can pass a levy next year.
So, yes. So, you brought up about the swim team and every program here. Every program here should pay the same percentage of the overhead cost, whether it's you $5 or so on and so forth. Neglecting, no other program here gets to use the swim coach though. That's a unique fee to the swim team. The swim team should be paying for the swim coach. Pardon me? Are you agreeing with me?
No, don't
Okay,
don't
sorry.
talk to the audience.
Well, the same. Sorry, don't talk.
Sorry, me too.
It's okay. Say a word. Don't talk.
So anyway, basically I think if we take out the swim coach's salary, every other program should pay the same percentage. They're not going to pay 100% of the cost of using the pool. I'm not saying that. I'm saying about 50% or of the cost of using the pool. But I don't think any other program gets to use the swim coach.
And I don't know that any other, well, in fact, I don't even work as many hours as he works. So,
I'm not saying he doesn't work a lot of hours. He's a hard-working guy. I didn't say that. He probably works for a lot for the money he gets, but that shouldn't be covered by every other swim user in here.
should every other swim user cover lap swim then?
No, we should pay, I should pay the same, each lap swimmer, or lap swimmer should be charged the same lane hour percentage, about 25% or 50% or whatever of the cost, because they're not going to pay, it's not 100%.
Right.
Because I said, 50% or 58% or whatever comes from the levy, M&O levy, the rest comes from the user fees. So they should, you take that $300,000 or whatever and divide it into the number of hours and the use, and that's how much each program should use, each lane should use, divided by 6 the way you did it, but not throwing the coach in there.
Well, that's just where we disagree, so.
Yeah, I agree. That is exactly where we disagree, because I think if we didn't, you're right, I think for the most part, we pretty much come out the same, even though we have different ways of figuring it. I use basically what they're doing over in Anacortes, except.
She told me that would not work for us right now because we're too far in the underwater.
Yeah, and how did we get underwater? By spending $45,000, by your figure, extra per year for the swim
No,
coach.
that's not how we got here.
Oh, no, of course not.
We got here through a bunch of lawsuits and a bunch of other stuff.
But
And that wasn't the kids that
if
caused
we
the
weren't
lawsuits.
spending $45,000 extra a year for the swim coach, by your calculation, then that would have been another $200,000 over the last 5 years that we would have. So we would not have a deficit.
On paper, but no.
Okay.
All right. Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay. NWAC contract discussion. Does everyone have the motion in front of them? We are not going to vote on this tonight. We're just going to discuss it. Commissioner Shingleton, do you want to start the discussion?
Sure.
Would you read your motion into the record one more time? Sorry.
I move that a board-approved agreement be executed between the North Louisiana Park and Rec District and a nonprofit organization supporting the North Whidbey Aquatic Club regarding the financial responsibility of the swimming club. The contract must cover all the club expenses, including program staff. The agreement will not charge the club actual lane time in its first year, but must cover a portion of the district overhead in addition to program-specific costs. The agreement will also remove from district responsibility all NWAC-specific transactions, including but not limited to club and member P&S registration, club and member meet fees, coach travel fees, and all NWAC supplies and retail. The initial contract shall be for a period of 1 year, commencing September 2017, and must be executed no later than July 31st, 2017. Failure to reach an executed agreement will result in dissolution of the North Whidbey Aquatic Club effective August 15, 2017.
Do you have anything to say beyond the words of the motion? Do you want to talk about it?
From my perspective, it's the intent of it is to move the program forward and give it independence. I mean, I wasn't sure how we were going to go about this, and it's difficult to have a discussion, but then no, we're not going to vote on it. I don't know why, just because we don't typically do that. But
I know.
So I mean that's the intention is based on it, and it's for a lot of reasons. You know, one is that I do believe that the program. Well, so here's the way that I define it. You know, we talk a lot about, well, we should treat all the programs the same. I actually disagree with that. I think that is not a foregone conclusion, and I don't think it's a dirty word to say we're treating them differently. I believe that a number of our programs are compulsory, and I believe that this one would be considered a luxury, and so I do believe that it requires different treatment, or rather, maybe not requires, but that it should be looked at differently, and so the effort here is to find a benefactor who's going to pay the cost. And the reason why it isn't specific, FYI, the reason why it isn't specific is because I wasn't sure. I've heard a lot of things and I don't actually know what the 100% truth is. But so it doesn't mention Blue Heron Booster Club because I was not sure whether even if they wanted to, if they would be able to take financial responsibility given the way that they're currently organized. So it was intended to be flexible. And so this is simply a way to move things forward with a specific time period. I guess that's...
Side question.
Commissioner Fort, go ahead.
So, let's see, line 1, 2, or paragraph 2, I guess, the contract must cover all club's expenses, including program staff. The agreement will not charge the club actual lane time. So you're not going to charge them the percentage of the cost of the front desk person and the 2 lifeguards? Or actually, I guess they don't have 2 lifeguards here when they're...
Well, so this is simply, and I know you know this, but this is simply to require a contract. But part of that is the intention would be to not mount all of these costs in the first year. The attempt is to be transitional.
Okay, so you wouldn't include, like, you wouldn't include the CSS out front the first year?
I think
Percentage,
that,
the same percentage as every other program, say, it's 25%, whatever.
and I think it would remain, well, but at least as we're currently saying, it isn't currently, right? That isn't what's happening currently.
Okay.
But the idea
So
would
you're
be
saying
to be
a year from
transitional.
now, you give them a transition for that?
I would say in the first year, and then part of it is
Okay.
look at what that
All right.
that means.
Good
Yeah,
point.
and so part of it is not saying, hey, let's do this over year 1, year 2, year 3. It's
Okay.
let's talk about it.
Okay, and then
That's the intention.
last line, failure to reach execute agreement. I was wondering if we could change that, because I think the swim team could still be here without a swim coach, or they could pay for a part-time swim coach and then have some of the parents volunteer like every other youth activity in the county does. I don't think any other youth activity in the county has a full-time paid coach paid for by taxpayers. So I would say, failure to reach an execute agreement will result in elimination of the district-funded NWAC Master Swim Coach position, effective August 15th, 2017. Last thing here.
And so here would be my...
And not the whole club. The club can still remain, they can still pay the 25% lane use that everybody else, that I sort of figure should pay, you know, based on those calculations that I came across. It was a little different from what the director, other than, actually, we probably weren't that much different other than the swim coach. So, I mean, we had different ways of figuring it, but we probably came out about the same. So I would say failure to reach an agreement, well, let's say failure to reach an executed agreement which will result in elimination of district-funded NWAC master swim coach position effective August 15, 2017. Not the swim team. The swim team can still remain here just like every other program. It just won't have a full-time 75% funded swim coach funded from the M&O levy.
And I guess I would say I'm not sure that it's that simple. So I appreciate that you're trying to be flexible, but I think it's, you know, I think there's more to it than that. And so
Like what? Tell me.
well, you know, so there would be the question, is it a U.S. swimming program? Is it, you know, and what are the requirements along with that? It would also be, well, then what's our liability if we have volunteers?
They pay dues and they fund most of the program up to less than, they don't pay the full, it doesn't include the $45,000 as the coach, as the director figured it for the swim coach. The extra $45,000 for the swim coach. So I'm saying, if they want to increase their dues, to increase it, to make it so they can cover the $45,000 and they want to have a full-time swim coach, that's fine. Go ahead and have that. But maybe you don't need a full-time swim coach. Maybe you can operate with a part-time swim coach and have some parents work to do some coaching. And I think there's probably some parents out there who have some swimming experience and probably could do some coaching with directions from a part-time swim coach.
Commissioner Hoffmeyer.
Just like every other, by the way, every other youth activity in the county and district.
I think if you
Tell me one other district that has a full-time paid coach from the taxpayers.
Okay, are you done?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Hoffmeyer.
I think if you look at this proposed motion, that is only up for discussion tonight, obviously. I think if you look at this, I think a lot of reasonable people would look at it and feel that there's, especially with the whole of what's been said over the last couple of years, I think a reasonable person could find that there's one intention, which is last sentence on there. Failure to reach an executed agreement will result in dissolution of the North Whidbey Aquatic Club effective August 15th, 2017. The reason I ran for election and got on this board 2 years ago is because I felt that there were people on the board that wanted that to happen, though I hope that wouldn't be in the majority. A week ago, we all sit here through training given by our insurance agency. If you look at 3 of the first 4 words on this page, NWAC contract motion, that's 3 of the first 4 words. We were told by our insurance company that no motion that could be considered a contract, agreement, or bring increased risk of litigation could be approved without legal review by our lawyer. Our 2017 budget's already been approved. We sit there and we listen to that. We know that's what they said.
I don't remember saying anything near that.
That's exactly what he said.
No,
That's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he said.
he said about the
Can I-
litigation, but
Unfortunately, we
not,
didn't record it, so we don't.
Can I?
Yes,
can I
sorry.
Can I get you to ask the director, or can I ask the director that question then?
sure.
You sit here in the meeting with us, do you recall that? I think I even took a picture of it at some point. It might have even been a slide, but that was word for word. He said no motion that could be considered a contract or an agreement or brought increased risk of litigation could be considered without approval by our lawyer. Our 2017 budget's already been approved. We don't have the money in there for legal fees. Every one of us are doing our darndest to be fiscally conservative. We can't afford for that to go before the lawyer. Furthermore, the last time an NWAC coach was terminated, maybe you don't call this terminated, But it's effectively exactly what it would be. Are we ready to pay, as an exempt employer, are we ready to pay unemployment insurance? If it moves to California or somewhere where we're required to pay it for 3 years, are we ready for that?
I think his contract, the way it was written, is he can be released. You guys.
Yeah, and it's a
I'm
right
not
to work state,
I'm not a
so-
lawyer and I'm not confident
There's
in that
nothing
being the
says he has
case.
to be compensated for
Well,
once he's released.
we owed money the last several times that similar things have went down.
That was for different reasons.
Our insurance company told us that we cannot approve of any motion that's considered a contract or an agreement. So with that, I move that we table this until after the 2018 budget has been approved. That's my motion.
Hang on, let me write it
Well,
down.
not where you're talking about 2017 budget,
Okay.
not 2018, and we can only
Move
approve.
to table and contact agreement. All right, it's been moved to table the NWAC contract proposal motion until, when did you want it? Till after the 2018 budget's
You
been
know, so
approved?
in my mind, I was thinking February of 18,
Till, but you said no,
until after the
2018,
2018 budget's approved.
which is gonna be like November probably, after 2018. Budget approved, is there a second? No second. Defeated, thank you. This, my opinion is that we have been trying, ever since I came on the board, we've been trying to bring fiscal responsibility to the budget and to what we're doing. I see NWAC as a big money sink, and honestly, and it's like, and we tried to increase the fees last year to a reasonable point, and we increased them somewhat, 15%, and it still doesn't cover the costs, and we're not close to covering the costs, and I know the executive director has done a fine job in obfuscating that, but it's like the costs are not covered by the income from them. And I do not consider the coach's salary as overhead. His coach's salary is an NWAC expense, in my opinion, and it's not covered. And it's like we're just trying to get this program to cover itself, because as a taxpayer, I don't want to pay for it. I object to that. The pool is here, it's offered to the community, so we have lap swim, we have aerobics, we have swim school. Those are things that are important things that a pool does. A swim club is not a must-have, it's a luxury, and I want the parents to pay for it. Just the way parents pay for karate, they pay for ice skating, they pay for select soccer, they pay for hula lessons, they pay for those extracurricular sports for their children. Bless you for wanting your children to have those extracurricular activities, but it's like you've got to find a way to make this affordable. That's all. That's what I'm saying. Let's make it affordable, and it's like, but not at the expense of your neighbors. That's all. Okay. Does anyone have anything else that they want to say on the NWAC contract proposal? Commissioner Hoffmeyer.
I think if you look to something like hockey, for instance, and you look at the cost of what it costs to build a facility like the Everett Event Center, I don't know, $80, $100 million, maybe more. Those parents that are paying for their kids to take hockey lessons, there's no way in the world they're paying 100% of the cost.
How big is the city of Everett?
Well, it's irrelevant.
No, it's not irrelevant. This is a
It's
30,000
irrelevant
person town.
when we already have a breakdown of what the cost to each taxpayer is. That's
not-
where it becomes irrelevant.
It's
You
not
know,
irrelevant.
With our executive director's assessment, every taxpayer in the community pays $0 for NWAC, $0.
And I don't agree with the way he's done the
And
numbers.
with Commissioner Fort's math, every taxpayer pays $1.91 for kids to learn how to swim and to feed this facility with employees. And as I mentioned, all the other credits it brings in. I don't know why the board wants to oversimplify this. And you know, as our insurance training told us last week, when we leave here, that's supposed to be it for the month. So if we, as a board, feel that we have a director that is bringing us such stilted numbers, then how can we walk away and be confident in what's going on here for a month? We either trust him or we don't.
So So we either agree with him 100% or not.
His directions to us have been that if we took this up before the levy, that the levy was in big trouble. We took it up before the levy. The levy's in big trouble. Possibly that's what the board wants. Why the hell do we have a director when we're going to go against his wishes on such imperative things as M&O passing?
The levy is always in trouble.
I don't necessarily agree with that. And as I said in the last meeting, and this isn't directed at any board members, but what is going on here is one of the stupidest, most futile things I've ever seen.
Wait for him to finish. Done?
Like I said, there's going to be fingers pointing at all 5 of us after the November election. And I hope that a new board can right the cart in time to pass a new levy before the poll has been closed for too long.
No one's going to be pointing at you.
A new board obviously would not be able to, if it failed in November, a new board comes on January 1 or 3rd, 4th week of January, who knows? They're not going to be able to get everything together and get a new levy to pass in 2 weeks. When's the next opportunity? I think it gets into springtime. You know, maybe August actually. It might even be August. The next option might be August. I'm not sure. After February, the next option might be August.
It'd actually be another year after. If it fails twice, it takes another year. That's one of the things that.
So this board, knowing that and knowing that they failed, wouldn't put it on the February ballot though. When would the next option be?
No, we could do it if we fail in November, we could put it on the ballot
If
in
we
February.
get beat so bad because of our own actions, we obviously wouldn't do that, knowing that we would have to wait another year after it failed. We would let the new board do that. How long does that take? Until August? Well, February until August, then I guess that's how long the poll would be closed. I know that a new board can get things done. I know. And if this place does
Quiet,
close,
please.
it's not the end of the game. The way Oak Harbor got a new football stadium is this one got in such bad shape that it was condemned. The bleachers were. It led to a nice, bright, shiny, almost $7 million stadium that we will have for 50 plus years, maybe. The Coopville to Port Townsend ferry run has several new ferries. And that only came after very, very, very old ferries were condemned and taken out of service, and that route was passenger only for quite some time even. So I hope that everybody in this room knows that November is very close, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. And I truly apologize for that. And earlier when I said I don't take attacks on me, personal, I don't. But I take attacks on my kids personal. I do. My kid doesn't swim. He knows how to doggy paddle. He's not on NWAC. Comes here for birthday parties sometimes. But what has went on in this room over the last year and a half, I take as a direct attack on my kids. Because I, as a lot of us in this room do, consider every kid in this town our kids. And what has went on here is not right. What has went on here is very wrong. It did not shock me at all to see that 3 fellow commissioners had been asked to resign. Not at all. I think that would be the right thing to happen. Given what I've heard tonight, I didn't feel that way a week ago.
Hey.
I hope that somehow we can put all this behind us, but I have no clue how at this point. And I just wish that as a board we would do what our insurance director or our insurance training told us to do. And that is to show up for an hour or 2 a month and more or less approve staff's recommendations and approve a budget once a year. And I appreciate, Donna, you saying that the fingers wouldn't be pointed at me, but that's not how politics works. The finger will be pointed at every one of us. And that's why I'm doing everything I can. And I really, truly think that we need to contact our insurance agency again and ask them if what Bruce said is correct, that any motion considered an agreement or a contract needs legal approval first. Because that's what he sat here and told us.
Okay, that's not what this is. It's asking that a contract be written. This itself is not a contract.
When it's labeled as whatever.
No. It's labeled a contract proposal,
Contract proposal.
motion. And it's like, meaning that the board-approved
So we're gonna
agreement
pass
be
it?
executed. This itself is not a contract.
So then NWAC goes away August 15th because we can't afford to pay the lawyer. That's what he said. Our director that's getting paid decent money. I don't know exactly what he's getting paid. I don't remember because I'm so upset. It's probably, I don't know. Not very much actually. Not much more than I make. And the shit he's putting up with is ridiculous. I greatly apologize to him. And
Okay,
I'm
done?
done.
Okay. Commissioner Ford?
So are you suggesting basically anybody who disagrees should leave the board, who disagrees with NWAC, should leave the board, and we should load the board up again with NWAC
I think-
members? Is that what you're saying?
I think they should definitely consider
So,
I think they should definitely consider the will of the community.
The will
I think
of
they
the
should definitely consider the advice given by the director. And I think they should definitely consider what our insurance company said, because that's exactly what he said. He said if we had board members that wanted to do this, then they should resign their position and run for executive director. That's exactly what he said. That's
Only
exactly what he
only
said.
because of the way you asked the question, which was idiotic.
Everything else that's been asked, I don't feel that it was idiotic.
I apologize. You are correct. It was not idiotic. I just, at the time, I was upset.
I don't feel that it was idiotic. I don't think Bruce felt.
I already apologized. It was not
That's fine.
idiotic.
I'm glad you don't feel that way. I also don't think Bruce, our insurance representative that did the training, and the mayor of Ephrata, I don't think he thought it was idiotic. I don't think the executive director thought it was idiotic. I think any reasonable person would know it was asked to prevent a daggone lawsuit. If everybody in this room remembers, when this board formed, when this sitting board formed, we all stated our personal goals.
Yep.
And one of my personal goals was the same as yours, that we didn't get sued.
Yep.
You know?
Okay.
I think.
He
Yes.
asked a rhetorical question, but I agree with you that he asked you a question. So, Commissioner Ford.
so Anacortes can operate by paying, even though he has other duties. So the swim team pays for the Anacortes coach, along with apparently the high school, you're saying. So that he only has to work, I guess, he must quite spend, so he has to work 3/4 of the time working for I would assume for their swim team, their NWAC equivalent
I don't
swim
know
team.
the hours he puts for what.
Yeah.
He's a full-time employee.
Yeah, but he's a full-time employee, paid for
Quiet,
basically
please.
out
Got
of,
revenue from certain programs.
from the programs, yeah, from the high school and from the swim team.
Right.
So why can we, if they can do it, why can't we do it? Why do we have to have the taxpayers pay $45,000 of the swim coach's salary?
Well, may I address that?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know that there's a reason why the swim team can't grow to a point where it does do that. But I'm going to ask, my question with about a 30-second preamble is, June 2nd of last year, the Program Review Subcommittee met with me and Coach, that was Commissioner Holly and Commissioner Shingleton, and Coach and I presented a 3-year growth business plan for the team. It was well received, some conversation. I was asked to present it to the board at the regular June meeting. We talked about a 3-year plan to grow the team up to a number.
That would fully fund the coach.
Yeah, but it has to get to that number. It can't do it right now. So we talked about a lot of things. For at least a year and a half, Coach had been here to that point. There had been no advertising, there had been no marketing, there had been no ability for him to go do anything. It was recommended that we give him X amount of money. I reduced it. He spent a bunch of money. The first year's growth goal was 15. In less than 6 months, he has 13. So he's grown it from 38 to 51 people. So, I mean, after being asked that question there, then we meet in December at an off-site subcommittee meeting, and all of a sudden there are 5 options. My question is, what happened from having a 3-year runway to grow a program to all of a sudden now we're talking about potentially dissolving the program if we don't get a contract in place?
Because when was that, August, September? We were told that there was going to be some fundraising, $100,000. That's what we were told in a meeting, and it was like, oh, okay, looks like they're gonna happen. And then the booster clubs set themselves some parameters so that they can't help pay for the program. And it's like, okay, that changed. Because it came out that,
Okay. All right, that's all I have to say.
don't look like that, because that's what happened.
And I actually have a different answer to that. Okay, absolutely. And the reality of it is the more that we get into what it takes to sustain this facility, I think the more we recognize that part of having that discussion about what belongs in M&O, and I mean, I know right now we're supposed to be talking about the motion, but really it's understanding that the pie is only so big, and what that commitment is, or not even commitment, but what those goals are, right? Sorry, it's not a commitment, it's a goal. Would grow that pie not quickly enough. And so the reality, I mean, and you can disagree with that, but that's okay, and that's your right to disagree with it. But that's really where it came from, was the imperative that faces us as it relates to maintenance, as well as any type of improvements. I mean, you know, that certainly isn't something that we've even been able to entertain, you know, and won't be for a period of time. So that you asked the question and I answered
I
it.
hope the same
So-
zeal goes to the other programs that are costing us much more. So,
There are programs that are what any sane person would say, okay, what anybody would say are normal. I took it back. What normal people say, these are normal programs for a swimming pool to have. And I think the swim club is a luxury. And when we do not have enough money to pay for all the maintenance issues that are coming down the pike, we have got to figure out where we are going to pay for that. I want to maintain the facility for all the people of this district, all the people, not just 50 and not just the 100 people that come. It's like we have to maintain the damn facility. Okay, go Mr. Ford.
Okay, so 3 or 4 years ago when Bill Walker was the director here, he proposed that the coach's salary basically should be covered under the user fees. He basically got harassed out of here because of that by the swim team members. And so, yeah, and I'm sure you'll try and harass me out of here too, because I disagree with you. But I still think that the swim coach, even Anna Cordes' swim coach, is not paid 100%. So even his comes 15% from the high school, or some percentage comes from the high school fee, and the rest of it all comes from the NWAC members. So they don't even apparently have. Why are you shaking your head? No, it's in.
Okay, just don't discuss
That's what I was
it. Well,
So anyway.
okay.
So anyway, the 100% of his salary is covered either by the high school money he takes in, or the money he gets from NWAC, or the equivalent of NWAC, whatever they're.
T-birds or something.
T-birds, Thunderbirds, okay, yeah.
Thundercats.
So all I'm saying is, his sole job is basically to work for the swim team. Now, he could be, as Shane said, maybe given extra duties, and then part of his salary should be covered from something else. But right now, he has no other duties than to work for the swim team. So the swim team should be responsible for paying his salary, just like it is in Anacortes.
and in a conversation with Marilyn, she did tell me it took them 3 years to get to that point. It didn't just happen because they decided we're going to do this. It took them 3 years. They've got almost twice the number of swimmers we have too. We're trying to grow.
Exactly.
That's why last June, whenever I walked out of a meeting here, I, the coach, and the families that are representing the team that are here tonight thought, all right, we've got 3 years to get this team up to speed. I'm the guy you hired to turn this place around financially, and it's my job to do that. It's not the commission's job to do that.
4 years ago, the director was sitting in your chair and tried to get it done. He couldn't, so if it'd been 3 years, it would have been done by now. But he got harassed out of his job
And I feel bad for him for what happened to him.
by basically the NWAC members.
Don't feel bad for him.
Quiet. All right. Does everyone have, are we done discussing? All right. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded we adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're adjourned at 8:45 p.m.
Guys will hand me your folder whenever you're all done. I'll take it.
We'll get through it. January's quick enough, and it'll work out.
The TAC swim coach does have some cash coming to him from their silver. Because you asked me what I was talking about.
25%.
Okay, but sir, can I ask you